So go ahead and start. Just finish up practice 10 today. I thought it was another productive practice. It's just that time of spring where we got to continue to push them mentally and physically, because they've been going for a while. We've been going, really getting on 4 weeks straight here. They're ready for the spring game and, see the light at the end of the tunnel. And, just dealing with typical bumps and bruises through spring right now. And most guys are practicing. We got some guys that we're limited and holding them in a little bit just through bumps and bruises through the course of spring ball. But still feel really good about the direction that we're going. We have a long way to go and a lot of work to still do. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up for questions.
Chris, you mentioned the bumps and bruises. I know a lot of teams end up not having a spring game for that exact reason. Something you ever thought about, or are you a big fan of the spring game at the end of camp?
No, I mean, the spring game's good. We're still debating on whether it's going to be live or not because we just don't have the depth, and we cannot afford to have somebody hurt. Right now we're at the point we've had some good productive live scrimmages here in spring. We will not go live again at all this spring until, again, potentially the spring game. And then we just have to make a decision here as we continue to go on what type of spring game we are going to have.
Well, what would the other option be? Just because it's...
They have the spring game, but it's not live.
Okay.
That's the way we practice, all the time, unless it's a live scrimmage. So that's the option. You'd still have a spring game, it just wouldn't be live to the ground, and try to keep guys healthy.
When you do have the bumps and bruises, what kind of opportunity is that for, say, a second or third team guy that is healthy to actually get a bigger workload?
Well, it's about having opportunities. Any time if you keep somebody out that's on the water, he's got to be pulled for whatever reason. It is an opportunity for a guy to show that it's his time to step up and see if he seizes the opportunity in the moment. You see a lot of guys end up earning playing time and potentially taking jobs because of things like that happen. And I can't sit here and say that someone's done that yet. Thankfully, we haven't had to miss out on a whole lot of our guys on our starting lineup or on the ones with the depth chart and miss time. But if it does happen, it is a great opportunity for somebody, even if it's just for a practice.
Coach, who are some of the guys that really caught your eye and had themselves a really strong spring, maybe move themselves up a little bit?
To start defensively, you guys have heard me talk about Kamoko so far. I mean, Kamoko's had a tremendous spring. He's a guy that we got to make sure we keep healthy. We'll be limiting as we go forward. Just he's done some things that are really impressive. His effort's been outstanding, and we got to make sure we keep him fresh and keep him healthy because he's had a history of injuries, and we just don't want to have a setback with him. But he's been tremendous this spring. Our corners, Isaiah and Bless Austin, have had a great spring. Last spring at this time, doing some of the new things we asked them to do, it wasn't such a pretty spring. But they're playing and practicing at a really high level right now. Saquon Hampton's another guy. I was kind of high on him last spring. Then he got hurt in the first game. He's playing really fast at a high level so far this spring. Again, he's a guy we got to keep healthy because he can make a difference for us. So the secondary, I'm really pleased with what I've seen. Deontay Roberts, I think right now, is probably the most improved kid on the football team. He's had an outstanding whole offseason and spring practice, and really happy with where he's at right now. He's really stood out. And then several guys on the defensive line have done a nice job and have improved. But those guys I mentioned have clearly made some huge jumps on the defensive side. Offensively, the two tackles, Kamal Seymour and Tariq Cole, have made huge strides from where they were last year. It's really their first time to play, for Kamal to even play offense. So, when we moved him after training camp was over and then put him in there midway through the season. But he's playing physical. He's still got to be consistent with his technique and some fundamental stuff, but he knows his assignments more. He's playing a lot faster. He's really strong, and he's been able to use his strength because he knows what he's doing. But those two tackles have been really impressive so far. And then the improvement of Gio. I've talked a lot about that. Rob Martin, I think, has improved a lot also. He's had a really tremendous offseason and a great spring. So those are some of the guys that have really stood out that have been around here and played last year. That have made huge improvements, and I like where they're at.
You have different ways of honoring your players. Will you do anything? Will you name a most improved player or most outstanding player at spring camp? Will you do anything to honor guys?
No. We have our Champions Club that is where we honor guys for doing the right thing, their attitude, their effort, their performance, both athletically as well as academically, and that's our opportunity to do that. We'll have a Champions Club We had one before spring practice for quarter one. We'll have another one after spring ball is over, which is quarter two, and that's kind of. But it's not about most improved and all of that type of stuff. It's about hey, you've got the right attitude, the right effort, and you've gone out and laid it on the line in practice.
Chris, what kind of a difference has Lester Erb made to the staff since he came here?
Lester's he's a great coach. He's a great teacher. Just a good person in general, and I think he's done a great job of connecting with his players. I think the players in his room have a tremendous amount of respect for him for a couple of reasons. One, who he is and how he handles his business, and his resume. He's done a great job. He's been very successful throughout his career. I think he's just done a nice job of mentoring those guys and leading those guys and helping them become better.
Junior, he did so many different things last year, whether it was wide receiver, he did some wildcat. Do you envision using him in a similar role if his ankle holds up and he's healthy?
No, there's always that possibility. When we get everybody healthy back in the fold, and then we get to some of the newcomers that we're potentially counting on, and we see what they can do, we'll see where we have to branch out. A lot of it will be, what do we need to do? Who do we need to feature? And how can we feature him? And last year, we needed Janarian to do a lot of stuff, and so we tried to feature him until he got hurt. And we'll see where we're at in training camp. But we're always constantly thinking both sides of the ball and special teams. What do we have? What are we going to have? But what are we going to be able to? What are we going to have to do to feature the guys that we need to be able to feature? But there's nothing set in stone saying we're going to do this, and that with Janarian yet.
Yesterday, you called Gio kind of your clear-cut top standout quarterback right now. What is he doing to earn that distinction from you?
All the things I talked about. I mean, he's improved just his overall knowledge of the offense and knowledge of defensive identification. He's provided tremendous leadership for not only that unit but the offense. He's making better decisions. He's trying to protect the ball. He's not perfect, but he's trying to protect the ball, and fundamentally he's a lot better right now. His drops, his ball handling, his run reads, all that stuff is a lot better right now. And he is our clear-cut number one, with where we're at after 10 practices.
You mentioned not knowing if you'll go live or not. Have you decided whether you'll go, regardless of what you do for the spring game, live or not live, will you go ones versus twos?
No, we'll go ones, twos, like we did last year. I know there's so many different ways people do spring games. I just go off of my experience. We've had discussions about it as a staff. We really want our one offense and one defense to work together. And those 11 players that have been practicing, that will be 14 practices. When we get to that point, we want them to continue to stay together, just work on that chemistry, and all the things that go into it. But that's the way we'll do our spring game. Is our ones will be in red, and our twos will be in white, and the selected others will be mixed in there also. But that's the way we'll do it.
The greens and blacks guys in jerseys, I assume, will be held out.
We haven't made the blacks. The quarterbacks will be in black. There's no chance that we'll touch them at all. They'll continue to be in black through the spring game. Green jerseys, it just depends on what the limitations are. There are guys that are in green jerseys, day by day, based on whatever issues they may be having, but doesn't mean that they can't fully participate in the spring game yet.
You mentioned Bless Austin before. He had second in the Big Ten in pass breakups.
Mm-hmm.
Having coached D-backs as long, what makes him good at that, or what makes that a skill that he seemed to have?
Well, one thing he's got length. He's got really long arms. He's got long legs, long arms. And anytime you got a guy like that, and you do what we do with him being up on the line of scrimmage, putting him closer to the receiver, those long arms make a big difference. The other thing he's got is more about his mentality, his belief in himself. He's very confident in himself. And he's got a short memory, and he doesn't let negative things affect him, right, and especially right now the way he's playing. But one of the biggest assets he has is his length. He's got tremendous length, and he can get those arms out and get his hands on the balls and knock them down. And jump balls, he's really good on the jump ball too because of his length.
There are fans who ask us all the time, like, why has Rutgers not gotten any verbal commitment? I know you can't talk, just broadly from that perspective. Does that concern you whatsoever? I know it's so long until signing day, but
Now, what is today's date?
April 13th.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about that one bit. You look back last year, we probably had one kid that was committed, and he was committed before we ever got here. I'm worried about commitments on first Wednesday in February, and Why isn't anyone committed? Because no one's committed. It's simple as that, But I'm not concerned one bit about commitments in April. I'm concerned about them in February.
With recruiting, how excited are you for the atmosphere of the spring game with recruiting, and also to get on the road soon for spring evaluation?
But really excited about both, but probably more excited about getting on the road and get the evaluation process going. We've had a ton of recruits here on campus throughout the spring practice period. And that's really what we want. The spring game is great and all that stuff, but I'd love to have them here to watch us practice, get a chance to sit in meetings, get a chance for us to spend time with them. Can't do that stuff on the spring game. We don't have meetings. There's so much going on. It's hard to get an opportunity to meet with them individually, especially if a bunch of them show up. I hope we have a great environment. I know the Spring Fever with the band and the concert and all that stuff. Hopefully it's a beautiful day out and a lot of people come and creates a great environment for the recruits to see. But we've really pushed hard to get them to get here on practice days so they can just be like a player and be in the meetings and go through our daily routine so they can see what it looks like.
Take 2 more questions.
When you look at the practice fields through your window,
Yeah.
how cool is it just to see the
It's
progress every day?
it's really cool. When I started, they got the machines up there and they started to tear stuff down. It was amazing how quick it went. To get that old grass out or get those old lights out. I was hoping they'd kind of knock that fence down, but they haven't done that completely yet. But they did get slowed up by the rain. We had a lot of rain, but it's just cool to see that something's happening, and that it's actually going to come to fruition here sooner than later. And really excited. Our players are excited about it, and it's going to be a great tool for us to be able to go out and practice on some grass.